About BISTIM, a randomized controlled trial comparing dual stimulation and two conventional stimulation. So why is this being done? Because there is a lot of dual stimulation being offered. And so we're comparing two different stimulations which are occurring. And what the question is the question which is asked is, are the total number of oocytes retrieved with dual stimulation same or higher with conventional antagonist cycles compared to in poor responders? So what would be probably better? So when you have a look at the paper, so what are we looking at? We're looking at the conventional protocol. The conventional protocol is, in this case, estrogen pre-treatment, 12 to 14 days of injections, egg collection and transfer embryos. If it failed, a second round of treatment. Dual stimulation, again, in this case, estrogen pre-treatment, injections, first stimulation, 12 to 14 days, second stimulation after a day or two gap. So in 1 month, you have two stimulation cycles. Now, if you have a look at the results, and what is the logic? The logic, again, is that twofold. One is that you're trying to find out if the hypothesis that smaller follicles may get sensitized. So what you're looking at small follicles that repeated FSH may sensitize them. Second, we know that follicular growth is continuous. It's multifollicular, but also it happens in waves. And so the hope is that you're able to get some of this going, and you may be able to get a slightly more number of eggs at the best time. So as I always said, stimulate whenever the follicle count is the best. And that's a random start. So if you have a look at the results now, let's look at the results. In the first cycle of dual stimulation, there was vitrification done of the oocytes in the first stimulation. So when you look at the dose of gonadotrophins, very similar. Number of follicles over 14 millimeter, very similar. Oocytes, again very similar. Total embryos, again very similar in both the groups, conventional and dual stim. Cancellation, again quite similar. Total number of oocytes was similar. Total number of embryos was very similar in both the groups. Cumulative live birth rate across cycles was again 34% in the conventional group and 17.9%, slightly different, but again within statistically not very different. What does this tell us? Also remember, what was the trigger used in this case? The trigger used was HCG in the dual stimulation. So we're using HCG in a dual stimulation. Traditionally, analog has been used in a dual stimulation, and there's no trials which have shown what would be better of using either HCG or an analog trigger. So the second thing which was again important is that if you look at the survival rate of oocytes which are cryopreserved, they were again 81 to 82%, which means that some of these follicles, eggs which were frozen, survived quite well. So what does this paper tell us? The paper tells us that conventional two stimulations may be similar to dual stimulation. Similar number of oocytes, longer duration for conventional stimulation. Eggs which are frozen in the first stimulations have a decent survival. Conclusion that both are possible. Conventional takes longer time, dual stimulation takes shorter time. To pregnancy age was slightly different, they were still within the normal range. And it seems that dual stimulation seems safe. But again, these are early days. More and more data is coming, and that will give us a much better idea about conventional stimulations and dual